Well, I'm really pleased to welcome you to the CUCEA meeting. That's the Council of University of California Emeriti Associations. And Regent Hernandez is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Tierra Luna Engineering, LLC, an aerospace company headquartered in Stockton, California. He served as President of PT Strategies at PT Capital and PT Strategies from 2013 to 2016, and as Executive Director of Strategic Operations at MEI Technologies from 2011 to 2012. Jose Hernandez worked at NASA Johnson Space Center from 2001 to 2011, where he was an astronaut, legislative analyst, branch chief, and materials research engineer. And he was on the STS-128 shuttle mission, during which he oversaw the transfer of more than 18,000 pounds of equipment between the shuttle, the International Space Station, and helped with robotics operations. Growing up a son of a farm worker's family, his family finally settled in Stockton, where he began his California dream story in his dream of becoming an astronaut reaching for the stars. Through lessons from his father, encouragement by an inspirational teacher in Stockton, and lots of hard work and perseverance. Jose Hernandez earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Electrical Engineering from the University of the Pacific and a Master's of Science degree in Electronic Engineering, Signals, and Systems from UC Santa Barbara. He has also been awarded several honorary doctoral degrees. He held positions at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, including program manager and engineer, and while at NL, he worked in helping develop the X-ray laser as part of the Strategic Defense Initiative, the nuclear non-proliferation arena, helping the newly formed Russian Federation establish materials protection, control, and accountability measures, and engaged as a partner that resulted in the creation of the full-field digital mammography imaging system used in early detection of breast cancer. In addition, Hernandez has a vineyard managed by his father and produces a line of wines, Tierra Luna Cellars Incorporated. He also has a foundation, the Jose Hernandez Reaching for the Stars Foundation, that focuses on awareness of STEAM careers for kids in the Central Valley. He is a member of the League of United Latin American Citizens and Latinos in Science and Engineering. Most recently, his story is featured in the movie A Million Miles Away, produced and aired by Amazon Prime and being shown at theaters and several UC campuses this fall. CUCEA invited him here today to continue the conversation that Jim Danziger, Ellen Weber, and I had with him at the Regents Committee on Public Engagement and Development meeting in July. He has been described as a kind of gracious and humble man who is a quiet storm on the UC Board of Regents. And please indulge me just a minute as I ask you to consider Sacramento Poet Laureate Andrew DeFay's bite-sized poem, "Only Consider the Opinions of Those Who Have Washed Your Dishes." Regent Hernandez can tell us why I thought of him when I heard it, and how this short poem might be relevant to his remarks on being a member of the Board of Regents for UC. Regent Hernandez, it's your turn.
Well, thank you very much for that very, very kind introduction. I am certainly happy to be here at the Council of UC Emeriti Association meeting, and just want to share with you that I'm a recent retiree of the UCRS system. Come last August, it looks like they told me I needed to file for paperwork, and I said I'm too young. And they say, you don't understand, your benefits don't go up if you wait longer, so it behooves you to fill out your paperwork. So I did, so here we are, and very, very grateful for the 16 years I put in at University of California, Lawrence Livermore National Lab. But first of all, I just want to say that I'm very honored to be here with you and to serve as a governor appointed UC regent. I had wanted to be a regent ever since I termed out of my UC regent at my undergraduate alma mater, University of Pacific. That's a private university, and I served 9 years there. And so once I finished serving there, I said, what's the next logical step? Well, I'll go to my graduate alma mater. It's a bigger school. It's a 10-campus system, five medical centers, 3 national labs. I said, that's a big step from being a regent at a small Methodist private university, University of Pacific. And so I applied for that under Governor Brown's administration and never got selected. And then finally, when Governor Newsom came on board, I think they were looking for someone in the Central Valley that would represent the Central Valley. And I, of course, live here in the Stockton area. My office is here in Stockton. And they called me and they asked me, independently, they called me and they asked me, would I consider joining the UC Region Boards? I said, of course I would. And they said, well, fill out the paperwork. I said, I think I'm in your system already because I filled it out. They looked at it and they couldn't believe that the Brown administration just overlooked me. And they said, no. I said, we're going to convince Governor Newsom to appoint you. And sure enough, 4 or 5 months later, I got appointed. And again, I came here knowing that we serve as a trustee for the people of the state of California, and we're serve as stewards of the University of California system, making sure that the university stays on track with their education, research, and public service goals and responsibilities that they need to fill out. And so we there as regents are there to ensure that things stay on track. And we're also provide fiduciary responsibility because part of the process with respect to the $157 billion that the University of California manages includes mine and yours retirement system. And so we want to make sure that they treat it accordingly, responsibly, but also invest in things that are responsible, not things for the sake of just making money, but we want to be socially responsible. And so I pay special attention to those type of investments, and I always voice my concern when we start deviating or try to go after a high yield, but don't look at the social repercussions of investing in such type of activities. And so from that perspective, I'm very, very sensitive to that. And I'll tell you, my long-term goals of serving as a regent is to basically represent some of the segment of society that perhaps in the past hasn't had a voice. And I'll give you a simple example of what I think that we're doing that I think is the right thing to do is, for example, I'm spearheading, and I'll be happy, and I'll take the hit or the credit, however it comes down to. But one of the things that I found very, very disturbing was that, under the previous administration, the DACA program, Deferred Action for Children, was canceled. In the past, if a student got labels as a DACA student, they perhaps did not qualify for financial aid, federal aid, but they were protected in a sense that they could work. And they could work in jobs either on campus or off campus because they were protected while they went to school. And when this designation ended with that administration, a new crop of students come in year after year that are undocumented and are not DACA designated. So what's happening here now? Well, now obviously these students have to pay tuition and make ends meet. And so they work in basically in underground economies, dishwashers, busboy, whatever it is, try to make ends meet. But the sad part of it is that they cannot work on a university campus because the university has no mechanism to pay them. And you would say, okay, well, but that's the rules and that's the way it should be. But think about this. When you're a graduate student, you got to latch on to a professor and do research. And you get a fellowship and you get paid for the work you do. These students can't do that. So you have an uneven playing field, a different tier of class of students that I think needs to be fixed. And so those are some of the things that we're dealing with that I spearheaded in policy that has been adopted by the UC Regents. Now, how we're going to apply it in a legal sense so that it's totally legal, that's a very complicated way of doing it, but at least we brought it to the forefront and on the radar of the Regents and the UC president so that we can make sure we give opportunity to these students in a level sense so that they can do research, they can work on campus. You know, those are the type of things that I'm trying to look out for. I'm also very sensitive to tuition costs. You know, having been a first generation college student, you know, when people talk about 2, 3, 4% increase, and to them that they think it's a small increase, but to someone like me who has to, you know, to scrape around for every dollar to help pay for the tuition, it's a big deal. Sometimes it's a big deal whether I go to a UC campus or a state college or community, and maybe not get out of a community college because of the costs associated with a Cal State or a UC tuition. And so I'm kind of more of a, I like to label myself more as a champion of the students, champion of the underdog, so that we can make sure we have the opportunities available for these kids. And then in longer term goals as the Regents is that, you know, we've got to, you know, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was the investments we make. You know, we have a lot of money where we put money and investments, but we also have to do it socially responsible. And so that's one of the things that I really want to make sure that we start working with our CFO in a sense that we don't make investments for the sake of investments. I like more us investing in our own infrastructure. In other words, if a UC campus is building buildings for dorms, instead of them taking out a loan with banks, you know, take the loan against the money that we have, and we make it as an investment to the university, and they pay it back into the system, and it's a win-win situation because then we afford them the ability to build, and they pay back the loan with interest, of course, and everything, and everybody wins, as opposed to going to some other companies that you know, maybe, I don't know, making arms for war or things of that nature that perhaps we shouldn't be supporting. But again, all these things are somewhat complicated, and you know, I'm only one of about 18 appointed regents, and then we have some regents like the governor, the lieutenant governor, the superintendent of schools that are appointed automatically, are part of the board automatically, but we try and work hard with everybody so that we can come to a common agreement. And I think the way you guys can help out with respect to us is to be vocal and let us know what's on your mind, what worries you, and so that we can accurately represent you. And I wouldn't say accurately represent you, but accurately represent us, because I consider myself part of you guys as well. And let us know what it is that is of concern to you, so that we can make sure we consider it when we make these decisions, and we don't make decisions in a vacuum, but rather have as much input as we can so that we can make it more informed decisions. So that's what I want to do. And I'll take some questions with respect to that if there's some time for it. But the other thing I also wanted to talk a little bit about is about myself, because I'm sure you guys are curious about about who I am and how I got to be who I am. I was born and raised here in Stockton, California. This is my hometown, but my parents come from Mexico, and we used to commute and lived a migrant lifestyle. 9 months in California, 3 months in Mexico. During those 9 months, we would spend 2 months in Southern California, 2 months in Central California, and 5 months here in Stockton. And it wasn't until my second grade teacher convinced my parents that we needed to stay in one place. And that's when we made Stockton our home. And then when I was a 10-year-old, I saw the amazing last flight of the Apollo era, Apollo 17. So if you could imagine a 10-year-old holding on to rabbit ear antennas, watching a black and white TV for dear life, and listening to reporter Walter Cronkite narrate that last moonwalk, and seeing astronaut Gene Cernan walk on the moon, and then me going outside, it was a cold December night, looking up in the sky, seeing the moon coming back inside, and seeing and hearing Gene Cernan talk to Mission Control Houston, I was hooked. I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be an astronaut. And the best thing I could have done is tell my dad. My dad only has a third grade education, had the wisdom, sit me down and empower me to believe I could be an astronaut. Because he said, I think you can do it. Just follow these 5 steps. I said, what are they, Dad? He said, determine your purpose in life, recognize how far you are, draw yourself a roadmap so you know how to get there, prepare yourself according to the challenge, and the same work ethic you put out picking fruits and vegetables Saturdays and Sundays, 7 days a week during the summer, put it, pointing to my books, put it here, and then when you get a job, put it in your job. So you mix that up, and that's the recipe to succeed. And that's what I did. And I'll tell you, that recipe I still use today. It works. The only thing I would add is perseverance. Because I'm here to tell you that NASA rejected me not once, not twice, but 11 times. It wasn't until the 12th time that I got selected as part of the 19th class of astronauts. But that was before that happened. That happened when, after all this other things that happened, which was I went to college, University of the Pacific, undergraduate, and which is why I became a regent there. And then I went on to graduate school at UC Santa Barbara. And from there I went to Lawrence Livermore Lab, started a wonderful 16-year career where I started off in the Star Wars project, developing the first X-ray laser. And then the 1/3 of my career that's not even talked about, which I think is the most important, was I helped develop the first full-field digital mammography system for the earlier detection of breast cancer. So when people ask me what's my proudest technical moment, it's not being an astronaut, it's not going to space, it's developing this full-field digital mammography system, because it detects cancer at earlier stages, and we've demonstrated that it's saved hundreds of thousands of lives to date, so I'm very proud of that. And then finally, I came full circle with the Russians and started working with them, helping them protect their nuclear stockpile in the materials protection, control, and accountability measures. And I traveled to Russia 25 times over a 5-year period, which is why Я понимаю по-русски язык, I learned Russian, and then after all that, I became a pilot, scuba diver, got all the attributes I needed to be an astronaut, and NASA finally selected me. And of course, I flew on the STS-128 space shuttle as the flight engineer, Mission Specialist 2, and we were the second to last mission to finish construction of the International Space Station. So we spent 14 days up in space, took 7 tons of equipment that we needed to install, science experiment racks, ammonia tank assemblies that we installed on the outside of the station, a bunch of activities that we did, and I'll tell you, that was the ride of my life. It's a ride that even Disneyland's envious of, because you go from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in 8.5 minutes, and so it is a great ride. Once you're up there, you're going around the world once every 90 minutes, orbiting Earth, floating continuously, and I'll tell you, it's just an amazing experience. And then after that, they decided to retire the space shuttle. They offered me flights with the Russians. Unfortunately, they trained 3 years, 80% of that time in Russia, and then you go up for 6 months, and then you go on the road for 6 months. So for 4 years, you're going to be away from your house 90% of the time. And like a good Catholic, I have 5 kids, and the oldest was 15, the youngest was 7, and I couldn't in good conscience take this assignment because the preteen, teen years are the most important years, and I strongly believe both parents need to be present during the raising during that age. And so I respectfully declined and resigned from NASA, came back home over here, opened up my business in aerospace consulting, and then I saw this vineyard, beautiful vineyard for sale. I asked my dad that he taught me how to run a vineyard, because I know how to pick grapes. I don't know how to run a vineyard, but he does. I asked him if he would help me. He said yes. Then I bought it, and going to the next level, I took a tour where I sold the grapes at and saw how they made wine. Convinced myself it's not rocket science. I can do this, and if it is, I got you covered anyway. But it's not rocket science. So I decided to formulate my own wines, and once I came up with 3 formulations, Tierra Luna Cellars was born, and we sell a white wine, Sauvignon Blanc, Zinfandel, and a red blend. And I'll tell you, they're award-winning wines. You would love them. I guarantee you they taste out of this world, and they're the best tasting wine made by an astronaut. I could say that because I'm the only one that makes it. But in any case, we have a few minutes. I want to leave a few minutes because I want to make sure if there's any questions, or I'm not sure how they want to handle this, but I would certainly be happy to answer any questions.